everybody out there in Bible study land. This is
Joe Day.
And this is
Pastor.
What did we do today, Jody?
We got to serve hamburgers to the high school faculty.
Yeah.
I'm sweaty and smoky.
150 and some teachers, admin, faculty, staff. We fed them hamburgers.
That's why I'm wearing a hat today.
Yeah, I'm casual. I had a different undershirt on earlier, but it's all smelly and greasy, so I didn't change that. But I was wearing this. They don't care what I was wearing. But you started with the hat. Hey, so we're filming this video. Last week, I think we filmed the funniest announcement video we have ever.
Epic.
It was
both
literally
of us back together.
Oh,
it was
man.
riffing.
It was unscripted and hilarious. But unfortunately, there was a little lightning strike that happened on our campus over the weekend. And we didn't know that it took out our ability to show you the announcement video. So you missed out on that.
It was epic.
Yeah. So when we're old men and we're getting carted off to whatever we'll do when we get old men, somewhere there's going to be footage of lost announcement videos.
Oh, man.
And that video, an unaired. When they release the 5-disc greatest hits, there'll be a director's cut edition that has lost episodes. This is getting real long.
That'll be one of them.
We need to do this. We got a lot of fun stuff going on. Before we jump into events, there's actually construction taking place this week.
Exciting.
Absolutely.
It's been loud in the office this week.
Jackhammers. Outside
Big
of
saws,
yeah,
wet saws.
we're shooting water out. It's crazy. It's crazy. Outside of entrance 1, we're getting an elevator. So that's fun. So if you're watching this on any of the classrooms down that hallway by Hebrews, you're going to soon have an elevator take you up there.
That's right.
No
Exciting
low
times.
stairs.
Nope.
So fun. Check it out. Entrance 1. You can see what's happening. Don't look too close.
But it is summertime.
You know the thing about elevators?
Tell us about elevators.
You know, they can really lift your spirit. Sometimes they can really lift you up.
Lift you up.
But sometimes
Take you down.
take you down. All right, tell them what we're supposed to know.
They're supposed to know that it's summertime.
It's
and we got
summertime.
people going everywhere.
At the end of May, we got our 4th and 5th graders going to camp. So that deadline's already passed. Hopefully, if you've got a 4th and 5th grader, you're getting them ready for that. But all of you be in prayer that would be a spiritual marker in the lives of those 4th and 5th graders. What
And
else?
next week, Carlos is going on an airplane to North Africa.
North Africa. We can't say a whole lot about that, but be in prayer for Carlos because he's going to North Africa to help with the mission effort that maybe in the future our church could be in help with as well. So be in prayer for Carlos. We want him safe, and we want him to come back to us safe and sound. We also want to see what God wants to do there. So be in prayer for Carlos, North Africa.
North Africa. 10 days.
Yep.
And then June. Tell us about
Then
June.
June, that first week of June, June 1st, our middle schoolers and high schoolers are going to be participating in work camp. That's where a lot of churches in the area team together to help paint houses for folks that need their houses painted right here in our community. So if you've got a middle schooler or a high schooler, you can go to our website and sign them up to participate in work camp right now.
And then June 4th through the 7th, I get to lead a trip to El Paso where we partner with Brant Small and Sun City Church, and we get to host soccer camp, and they got a new building, so we're going to help fix up that building, do fun things
Awesome.
there.
Who goes on that trip?
Anybody.
Anybody goes on that
Really?
trip?
I mean, anybody technically can go on a trip. If you're interested in going to El Paso in a month, we'd love to have you. Sure, come on, talk to me, and we can make that a reality. It's a great trip. We would love to have you, but there is a construction side, which is different than normally just a soccer camp, so it's exciting.
Spanish, would that be helpful?
If you speak Spanish, that would be great.
Yeah, be an
added bonus.
Tool that could be used.
You could be used in that. I cannot. That's why we rely on Carlos.
No bueno.
No bueno.
No bueno.
Por nada.
Oh, there you go. No problem for nothing.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I've heard it before.
Yo no sé. All right, and then June 14th through 19th is Vacation Bible School. And as you know, did I say 14th? We're supposed to take this in one take. It's the 15th through the 19th. June 15th through the 19th is Vacation Bible School. So if you have a kid or a grandkid that needs to participate in Vacation Bible School, you can head to our website and sign them up right now, and we need your help there signing kids up, because that lets us know how many volunteers we need.
And boy, do we need volunteers.
Boy, do we need volunteers. That's where you can come in. You can go to the hub today and sign your name on a dotted line just to say that you'd be interested in helping. That's not committing you to anything, but that will get a phone call headed your direction to see how you might be interested in helping. Or if you know Brett or Tony, they'd be great people to talk to if you want to volunteer.
Yep. Hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Yes.
That need hundreds of volunteers.
That's right. I mean, usually 700 to 800 kids every day.
Yep.
That's a lot of kids.
A lot of kids.
We got to keep eyes on them. And we got to tell them the good news of Jesus.
That's right.
So that's a lot to be in prayer for. 4th and 5th grade camp, work camp, El Paso, Carlos in North Africa, and Vacation Bible School. A lot of ministry going to take place over the next month. Be involved, be in prayer. And today
is Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Mother's.
So hopefully you're in Bible study.
If you haven't joined us for worship, we would love to see you 11 o'clock in the worship center. On your way in, there's a gift for all the ladies.
All the ladies. Every woman present. We've got a gift for you. We want you in worship, though.
Jeff said you have to get the gift in order. If you wanted the gift, you got to go to worship.
Yes. You have to show proof of sermon notes in exchange for the gift.
Okay.
Yeah. And because it's Mother's Day, we're giving you the night off. Spend it with your family. Enjoy a relaxed Sunday afternoon and evening.
Great day. Thank you for being here on Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jody, for all that you do.
It's a joy.
Yeah. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Up until about 10 minutes? No, I'm just kidding.
Hasta luego. Spanish.
Every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. Every day with Jesus, I love him more and more. Jesus saves and keeps me, and he's the one I'm living for. Every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before.
Welcome, everybody, to the Radio Bible class here at First Baptist Church, Sulphur Springs. We're a little low in attendance this morning. It might be the rain. Thank God we got a good rain. Brother Teacher, did you come through a storm this morning?
No, but they say it's on its way.
Yeah, we're going to get more this afternoon. And I want to say to you who are watching and you ladies here, Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for being the Christian women that you are. We wouldn't have Sunday schools, Bible schools, WMUs, mission organizations if it weren't for the mothers and the Christian ladies that have led our church. And my heart goes out especially to you for raising families, for work. Some of you worked while you was raising families. Some of you worked 24 hours a day without raising families. But thank you. I miss my mother today. I'm so proud that I had a good Christian mother. She taught me a lot of things, especially how to behave myself. And I can remember several times, and maybe some of y'all can remember sometime your mama grabbing you by the ear and shaking you good. Luckily, my parents didn't have to spend any money on lawyers' fees because they shook me when they needed to. And I'm so thankful to have a good Christian mother. And I want to wish every mother, and you men had a mother that are listening, hug her if you still have one. And thank God we had good Christian mothers. Y'all join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for a mother. Thank you for a good mother that worked hard every day, that had my interest in her heart and taught me the right things. God, I ask you to bless those that can't be with us today, those that are sick, maybe in the hospital, just not able to drive to church, get around, but let them know that you're watching over them and you're taking care of them. Thank you, God, for these that are here this morning, that they've come out in the weather to worship you and to set an example for not only their family but for their community. And God, give us the strength that we can share your word and your love with everybody that we meet, that they can see it in our face and our actions as we work and go on about our daily lives. God, I ask you to be with James this morning, that he brings us a lesson that we can take and live by and grow by. And thank you so much for Lum and Sandra for leading our music and being the Christian people they are. We have so much to be thankful for at this time of the year, Lord, because there's so many things going on in our world that we have personally not in control over, but we can pray that our leaders will do the right things to protect us, that we can keep living for you. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
When it gets bad, and it gets real bad, this song this morning talks about that. Trials dark on every hand, but we cannot understand. But it's going to get better by and by. 5:22. By and by, not now. By and by. Bye bye. Trials dark on every hand, and we cannot understand all the ways that God would lead us to that blessed promised land. But he'll guide us with his eye, and we'll follow till we die. We will understand it better by and by. By and by, when the morning comes, when the saints of God are gathered home, we will tell the story how we've overcome. We will understand it better by and by. Oft our cherished plans have failed, disappointments have prevailed, and we've wandered in the darkness, heavy-hearted and alone. If we're trusting in the Lord and according to his word, we will understand it better by and by. By and by, when the morning comes, when the saints of God are gathered home, we will tell the story how we've overcome. We will understand it better by and by. Temptation's hidden snares often take us unawares, and our hearts are made to bleed for some thoughtless word or deed, and we wonder why the test when we try to do our best, but we'll understand it better by and by. By and by, when the morning comes, when the saints of God are gathered home, we will tell the story how we've overcome. We will understand it better by and by. Thank you very much, and we've got a man ready to go this morning, frothing at the mouth, Brother James Scott from Tarrant County, right?
Tarrant County.
Tarrant County. Good to see you, James.
Good to be here. Good to be here, Lum. Very nearly in Parker County, which does make for a longer drive. I was just thinking this morning, and something popped into my head, that those epic moments when Lum looks to Mickey to choose a song, and Mickey always fires something out right away. Well, one of Mickey's favorites is 608. We'll work till Jesus comes. We'll work till Jesus comes. And that really drives what the lesson is today. It's I've had many friends who have been young pastors who have sought to bring a certain message home to their congregations, and being young pastors, and depending on the size of the church and the location of the church, they often had to get used to their new congregations and they to him. And In almost every instance, it's worked wonderfully. But there was kind of a break-in period. And I knew of one young pastor who arrived at a church in Oklahoma in a cowboy town, which suited him all right. I mean, he was out of Baylor, but he'd grown up in the Texas Panhandle. And one night, a group of the young men of the church came by in their pickups and said, "Go rambling with us." And so he jumped in, and off they went. And he knew them by that chance well enough. No, they did not mean rambling as in going to honky-tonks or drinking or even smoking for that matter. They were just out driving. Mudding was more their thing, probably, in the pickups. That's a good Oklahoma habit. Where on earth is John when I need to throw that at him? But as they came in the darkness, they slowed down on this farm to market and pulled over, and there was a barbed wire fence. And he knew enough to look over the fence that it was a crop growing there. And from the look of it, it looked like melons. And sure enough, they said, "Climb the fence." So we did. And they were all in this melon patch. And they said, the only thing is, the owner of this patch doesn't appreciate people poking his melons. He's threatened many times to open fire. But we're going to find a good one. And so they carefully in the darkness stepped row to row. What this poor young pastor did not know is that the owner of the patch was in on this. And after they had walked well into the pasture and they had just picked a big melon, all of a sudden this figure rises up out of the patch with a 12 gauge. And he said, "I told y'all," boom, and clicks off all 3 rounds from the tube. And this young pastor did not know whether to hit the deck or to run. He decided to hit the deck and waited till the 3rd round was fired. Then he ran right into the barbed wire fence, scrambled over. So that was how they broke in their new pastor there at that time. It was their tradition, you might say. But I think my favorite thing ever pulled was on a young youth director, also fresh out of college. And he had been doing lock-ins with the youth for about a month. But after one such lock-in, they had a staff meeting at the church, and his eyes were blinking. Well, the fact is that at previous lock-ins, he'd fallen asleep during the staff meetings right after that lock-in. And they watched him for a bit as they're conducting the meeting, and they wait until suddenly he is sound asleep right there and starting to snore. The pastor, the associate pastor, minister of music, children's director all smile. They get up. They leave the room. Then each walks back in the room very quietly with a set of clothes. Put their shirt, put their pants, put their shoes across each of the chairs where they were sitting, then quietly backed out until they were just about out of the church, and then they blew a trumpet and took off. That was just a little bit mean. But the fact is that day is coming. That day is coming. And we can look forward to it if we know who is in charge. In charge of us, in charge of that day, in charge of the universe. And that is God through Jesus Christ. And verse 1 of chapter 24 just kind of leaps right in. You'd seen in verse 23 that Jesus has been talking to the scribes and Pharisees. What's the one word he uses in most translations of English as he says to them? It's a 3-letter word, and he opens it with 7 different statements to the scribes and Pharisees in chapter 23. Woe. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, for you do this. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, till you do that. What's interesting is the translation for woe is also, it's not only what's coming at them, it's what they're doing to people. You're putting woe on people, woe is going to land all over you. What you're doing is destructive, but destruction is going to land over you. You're destroying, you're going to be destroyed. It's the same word in Greek, each point, and the context tells us how it's used. And there in the temple, he really lets them have it. And then he and the disciples depart from the temple, and this is the last time Jesus will be in the temple. Last time he'll get to see the temple from the inside. Last time he will be the temple and its environs. And as he leaves, he talks about sending the prophets and sages and all those and how they got killed, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah. I tell you, all this will come upon this generation. It is coming down. It is finally going to come down on y'all. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who were sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. As Jesus came out of the temple and was going away, his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. Now, the way they were walking was an interesting route. I think Mickey and Linda have been there. You're leaving the Temple Mount and you're heading towards the Mount of Olives. It takes you downhill into the Kidron Brook or Kidron Valley, or in Texas we'd say the Kidron Arroyo. It's a good-sized ditch. It just happens to run nearly 100 miles from Jerusalem all the way to the Dead Sea. But the Brook of Kidron, the Kidron Valley, the Kidron Arroyo, they're crossing over it. And in the Kidron Valley is a garden. Anyone know that garden's name? A garden full of olive trees. That was what? Gethsemane. It has anywhere from, they say 8 to 23 is the estimate. I guess it depends on the year and what sprouted out. And many of them that are there date from the 12th century. The wood, everything else. Olive trees can have a long life, unlike peach trees, which I've discovered don't have that long a life most of the time. You are lucky if you nurse them through. If you give them the care that Linda gives her peach trees, they may last 20 years. But that's unusual. Pear trees, that's another matter. Pear trees can show you where old homesteads were. But olive trees can show you where the last century was, nearly the last millennium was. They are around for a long time. And scholars have agreed that the root systems in the Garden of Gethsemane that have sprouted these trees are the original root systems from the time of Jesus. The sprouts have just come up from there and kept coming up for 2,000 years. So it's the original root systems, even if the original trees are not exactly that. But they're walking there. And what is about to happen is what is called the Olivet Discourse. It ranks with Sermon on the Mount for two reasons. Number one, it's told at a slight elevation. And secondly, the points Jesus brings home in this. It lasts chapter 24 to chapter 25, this Olivet Discourse, because the Mount of Olives is what rises out of the Kidron Brook there. It is kind of an impressive viewpoint or vista, or was at that time. The altitude difference between the Mount of Olives and Jerusalem is not that great, but it's enough. I loved when I would go to Glorieta. I've been to Glorieta 42 times in my life, from the year it opened in the early 60s until the year it began to be sold off, basically. And what I really loved was going up that little lookout peak that was less than a mile. I'm not talking about Baldy. Baldy, is the big mountain that frames Glorieta, goes to 10,400 feet. And I've been up that, actually 10,800 feet. Been up that many times. In fact, when I was a young fella, just turning 40, I was in pretty good shape. And they said, allow 8 hours, go up and down Baldy. I would do Baldy twice a day. Get up in the morning, do Baldy. That evening, do Baldy. Come back. I was in a lot better shape then. I had to have been about 40 pounds ago at least. But Little Lookout Mountain is just right there. It overlooks the conference center. And that Lookout Mountain is about 7,750 feet up. The conference center and the church and the chapel are about 7,500 feet, about 250 feet difference. That's exactly the difference between Mount of Olives, and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Temple Mount, I believe, was 2,475 feet, and the Mount of Olives is 2,725 feet. Thought that was interesting. The Jerusalem is exactly the height of the tallest mountain in the Wichita Mountains, Oklahoma. Oh, where is Johnny? This is the time I really need him here. At 2,475 feet. And of all places, a place he can make fun of with me, Mount Scott. Mount Scott in the Wichita Mountains is the tallest that's there. And whereas the tallest mountain in Arkansas, where I can pick on Johnny as well, is 2,745. Almost the same as I'll think of it in a second. But same height as the Mount of Olives. And the differential is such at Glorieta, you can have a magnificent view of the chapel, the lake, the conference center, and everything. From the Mount of Olives in those days, you could as well. At least the old city you can see there as well today. A really good place to look at it. And as Jesus came out of the temple, I tell you, he said, as he got up on the Mount of Olives, and his disciples are staring at what they're seeing there, and what a magnificent temple it is. It was not Solomon's temple. This was, of all people, Herod's temple. Herod did not have the gold and gemstones that Solomon put into the original temple, of Solomon's temple, but he did have some Greco-Roman technology that made it pretty impressive. He did put precious woods all through it. He took careful carvings of granite in such a way that when the sun hit it at sunrise or sunset, the whole thing lit up in almost a special effects type display on the outer walls of the temple at that time. It was Herod's way of making up to the Jews for all the horrible things he did. All the people he'd murdered, all the sons he had murdered, all the family members he had murdered. Augustus, emperor, was glad to have Herod controlling the Jews for the Roman Empire, because that was a tough thing to do. At the same time, he said one time, very sardonically, very almost sarcastically, I'd sure feel safer being Herod's sow than Herod's son. The words in Latin are very close. And because if Herod was king of the Jews, he wouldn't be eating pork, but he would kill a son one after the other the moment he looked at him funny. And Herod, nonetheless, for all of his murderousness, built a fantastic temple that was a showpiece. One Greek historian of the day compared to Herodotus's naming of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. They declared this must be the 8th. That's how good that temple looked. And his disciples were talking about that. And Jesus said, you see all these, looking at them, do you not? I tell you, not one stone will be left upon another. All will be thrown down. The whole temple would be taken down in 70 AD in the siege of Jerusalem, a siege that began in 66 AD, technically, when the Jews once again rose up against the Romans, only this time it started to work. Nero wasn't dead yet. Had he died, this wouldn't have happened. But one of his last things he laid down was that a statue of himself should be put in the temple in Jerusalem, because he had decided that he was the Jewish Messiah as well as everything else. Roman governor after Roman governor tried to delay that. Finally, they couldn't delay it anymore. As they started to put it up, the Jews revolted, and the great Jewish revolt came to be. They actually managed to drive the Roman legions out for a time. When they came back with a vengeance. And the great siege of Jerusalem was in 70 AD. It was a siege. Josephus gives us an epic description of all the atrocities committed on both sides, all the horrible things that happened. The one thing that's most poignant is how the zealots, who were the main fighters, were turning on the people of Jerusalem and killing them left and right, and how cynical the zealots were about their own religion. To them, it was a nationalist thing. It wasn't a religious thing against the Romans. They were purely nationalists and might as well have been agnostics for all their lack of religious faith. Horrible description of the atrocities that went down there until Jerusalem was finally taken. And basically the Romans did to it what they did to Carthage. Knock it all down. Plow it under. And they managed to, except the rubble where they knocked down the temple was so thick, they could not see that the outer wall of the temple was still standing, the outer fence, it would have been called, that separated the court of the Gentiles from the outer world. But every part of the temple, every part of the beautiful part of the temple was flattened, not one stone upon another, like Jesus said. But that outer fence, once you cleared the rubble away, was still standing. It was a pretty good sized fence, about 30-something feet tall, with stones weighing stones weighing nearly 100 tons each. It was a pretty impressive bit of a wall, which today is known as the Western Wall, or the what? Wailing Wall, the most sacred spot to Jews worldwide. But was the temple itself taken down stone by stone? Absolutely. Absolutely it was, just as Jesus told in chapter 24 of Matthew. When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will this be? What will be the sign of your coming, end of the age?" Jesus answered them, "Beware that so no one leads you astray. Will many come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah? They will lead many astray. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, so that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All this is but the beginning of the birth pangs." Wherever the Bible uses a phrase in Greek that means last days, that these are the last days began when Jesus died and rose again. We've been living in the last days for 2,000 years of all of human history. Now, end times translates something different. End times is when it's going to be rough. Rapture, tribulation, second coming, millennium, all of that. That is the end times. And Jesus is telling them, note the political, the environmental, the geographic, the economic temperature of your day to know if the end times are here. At the same time, he's saying, don't fixate on any day. No one can know the day. And many of the things he's talking about are things that are happening throughout the last days in various times, various places. And they will hand you over to be tortured, and you will be put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. You know, that's happening around the world today. It's estimated that 5,000 Christians are murdered every year in Africa alone. In Africa alone. Hundreds in Iran every year. Hundreds in Indonesia every year. Christians are dying today around the world. And in most cases, it's fanatical, jihadist, Muslim attacks that don't take into account what Islamic teaching of tolerance has been for some time, because there's Islamic teaching that is not tolerance by any means. And you can't get away from that fact. And the fanaticism is beyond belief. They literally, do you remember when Stephen got stoned, what everybody did? They put their fingers in their ears and screamed and gritted their teeth and attacked Stephen because they didn't want to hear the words he was saying. When I was in the coast of Kenya, an Arab town there, Campus Crusade had come out there, and they were showing the Jesus film. The Jesus film is a phenomenal film. It's very different from most of the films we see on TV. I mean, I love The Greatest Story Ever Told. I love the all-star cast. I love Sidney Poitier as Simon of Cyrene. I especially love John Wayne as the centurion. I bet Jay could imitate the way he delivered that line. Surely. Anyway. I loved Jesus of Nazareth when it came out by Franco Zeffirelli and all they did there. But this was done by a newly completed Jewish director. He was one of Hollywood's top directors of the 70s. He's the one who had directed most of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor's dramas, and he had just gotten saved in the late 70s. And he wanted to make a definitive Jesus film based on one of the Gospels. He chose the Gospel of Luke. And for funding, they went to the Hunt brothers. H.L. Hunt's sons funded it. And he said, I want to make a gospel, not according to Cecil B. DeMille's, good as that may be, not as good as Franco Zeffirelli, good as that may be. I want the gospel according to Luke. And that's how they made the Jesus film. Now, when we were using the Jesus film in Kenya, it had been translated into 100 languages by that time. As I understand, it's over 450 languages today. And the exciting thing was, whenever we showed it, it was very often the first film that people ever saw. I remember the Honda generator I had to learn how to work and to keep it far enough away that it would not drown out the sound of the film as we spread bread sheets across trees there in jungle clearings and things like that. Well, the team I went without me one night because I had something at the Baptist High School. They went into the Arab town, and they were showing it. And hundreds of Arab young people were just riveted by it. And then their elders came out of the mosque. This was a Friday night. The elders came out of the mosque, and they looked up, and they suddenly realized, now it was in their Swahili. They spoke a pure Swahili with a lot of Arab words thrown in. They could tell right away what was being said. And these elders didn't bother to listen more than a second. They just began screaming. And they threw dust in the air, and they prepared to stone these Campus Crusade guys. Well, the Campus Crusade leader stood on the hood of his pickup and pulled out the Quran and began reading from the Surah Maryam in the Quran, where it says, Jesus is Messiah. Jesus is the Word of God. Only the word is Isa, not Jesus, but Isa. He began speaking and that's when they stuck their fingers in their ears and screamed, Isa is not in Quran, Isa is not in Quran. He's all over the Quran. And they attacked. Thankfully, the police arrived at that moment. The police were not happy about this ruckus. They rather brusquely escorted the Campus Crusade people out of there so this riot would calm down. As they were leaving, two of these Campus Crusade guys were fluent in Swahili with the Arabic words. And he saw one of these elders who had been screaming like that, saying to another, I have a VHS. VHSs were fairly new out there. The latest porn flick. You want to see it? Yes, yes. So off they went to watch porn. This was the horror of that evening. I wish I'd been there, and at the same time, kind of glad I wasn't. But that's the type of persecution today that's murderous in so many countries around the world against Christians. Christians are dying for their faith. Then many will fall away. They'll betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because of the increase of lawlessness, the love of many will grow cold. The one who endures to the end will be saved. And this good news of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come. When you see the desolating sacrilege, or the sacrilege that makes desolation, staying in the holy place as was spoken by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand, then those in Judea must flee to the mountains. The one on the housetop must not go down to take what is in the house. The one in the field must not turn back to get a coat. Woe to those who are pregnant, to those who are nursing infants in those days. Pray that your flight may not be in winter or on a Sabbath. For that time there will be great suffering such as has not been seen from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. The tribulation. And if those days had not been cut short, no one would be saved, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and produce great signs and omens to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. There have been lots of deceptions out there. Lots and lots of deceptions out there. Even in America, there have been lots of deceptions. Take note, I have told you beforehand. So if they say to you, look, he's in the wilderness, do not go out. And they say, look, he's in inner rooms, do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. Look for those signs so that you will be forewarned. But again, no one can know the day. And anyone who says they have the formula for the day, run away. There's 2 or 3 men I have admired in their writings, but they have attempted to do that, and it is not the right thing. Why? Because Jesus said, while I'm earth, I don't know when it will be. How can anyone in the world think they could know? There is no way. Immediately after the suffering of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Like the saying says, when it comes to Jesus, you can bow now or bow later. Bow now or bow later. From the fig tree, it learns its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and affords its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see all these things, you know that he is near at the very gates. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away. My words will not pass away. All those living in the last days, which we are, will take part of that, even if the end of days does not come in our lifetimes. Whether we die here or are taken to heaven then, either way, we're stepping out of time and into eternity, equally much with those who are still here. However we get to Jesus, we're stepping out of time and into eternity. But about that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, meaning himself, but only the Father. God had Jesus as a man and God in human form, but a man. And one of the elements of being a man was that he got hungry. He got tired. He had to rest. And he did not know that day as long as he was here. Therefore, no one could. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. Noah had preached. I don't know if you remember it, Noah did a lot of preaching, and he was not listened to. It's interesting, in the Quran, I love it when occasionally the Quran says something that is dead on target. One of those is they called Noah the preacher of God, and they called Jesus the Word of God. It's a shame that, more Muslims don't cotton onto that more quickly. But the fact is that the Quran contains some elements of truth that agree with the Bible, especially in the Surah Maryam. I especially liked when it talks about the incarnation. In the Quran, it says, don't ever think that Jesus was the product of a God and woman marrying like the pagans, like Zeus and all those. As far as Isa, God just had to say be to Mary, and Isa was. Not a bad way to put it. They did not know the flood was coming, though Noah had preached it. And it hit them while they were eating and drinking. The flood waters may have come right in their windows at that moment. And they perished. Then 2 will be in the field. 1 will be taken, 1 will be left. 2 women will be grinding meal together. 1 will be taken and 1 will be left. I don't know that that means a 50% rapture. I don't think that's what's being suggested here, though. I think what's being suggested is the fact that some will be ready and some won't. Some who are walking stride by stride on this earth may have a totally different feel of Jesus in their heart. And you must be ready. I love what was spoken of a elderly lady in a North Texas town. She was moving through kind of a little farmer's market in the town, and she knew exactly what she wanted. And this elderly lady was moving back and forth, and two white boys were standing nearby selling some stuff. They knew that she was a deeply committed Christian, and they said to her, "Hey, Granny, are you ready? Are you ready for Jesus to come? What are you doing to get ready? They watched her pick up a cantaloupe, watched her pick up a squash, watched her pick up a cucumber. I mean, she was moving like she had purpose, real purpose all the time. What are you doing to get ready? What are you doing here? What are you doing to get ready? And she stopped, turned, looked him in the eye and said, "I is always ready." Wisdom. The wisdom that comes with age. "Keep awake, therefore. You do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, For the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. Could be 5 minutes from now, could be 500 years from now. Who then is the faithful and wise slave whom his master has put in charge of the household to give the other slaves their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. There it is right there. At work when he arrives. We have had many instances of people proclaiming Jesus will come on this day. One of the biggest was the Charlie Miller movement of 1844, where over 100,000 Americans took that message so seriously that they determined we must get ready. Some put on what were called ascension robes and were ready to stand on their housetop and wait in 1844. Thousands failed to plant a crop that year because they thought they would show lack of faith if they planted a crop. And Jesus did not come. He did not come. And there was no way they could call it. There's no way. They were deceived. They were deceived. And they aren't the only ones that have had that happen. That, by the way, in American history is known as the Great Disappointment. It came at the end of the Second Great Awakening, and which is a wonderful thing, but they called that the Great Disappointment. The Branch Davidians came out of, now the Seventh-day Adventists were born out of the Great Disappointment, at least a lot of them were, but it's the Branch Davidians that were a breakaway offshoot and not much appreciated group. By the way, they conducted themselves out of the Seventh-day Adventists. You know, the Adventists wanted nothing to do with that and say, well, I know how that ended up. A really horrible thing, because someone was putting himself up as a messianic figure. One of the things you had to be warned about. Jesus is warning them. But here he says, I tell you, blessed is the slave whom the master will find at work when he arrives, not standing on a rooftop in an ascension robe, not necessarily withdrawing from society. Just working. Working at what? Mickey's favorite hymn, 608. We'll work till Jesus comes. To wait for him, stay busy doing the will of God. Not so busy we don't commune with God, but busy enough to do the will of God. How does our faith grow? In the Word. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. Let's polish that in our lives. Let's have that going. And meanwhile, work. What kind of work? Some of us have work that benefits others economically, be it family, friends, or employees. We've got work we've got to do. Students, others are benefiting from that. We have work until Jesus comes. We'll just keep at it, especially when it helps others. Focusing on helping others is the best focus we can have. But if that wicked slave says to himself, my master is delayed, this was a servant who was wholly trusted by the master. He begins to beat his fellow slaves and eats and drinks with drunkards. The master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, at an hour that he does not know. Then he will cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That servant was not saved after all. The master had trusted. This is a lesson that's good for pastors. It's good for Sunday school teachers. It's good for all those whom God has given some calling. And you will know them by their fruits, and his fruits were not very good. If they wanted a political comparison those days, you only had to pick one of Herod's surviving sons, who was such a horrible ruler after him that all of Israel complained to Emperor Tiberius, and Tiberius agreed. This guy is horrible, and hauled him off to Rome for suitable punishment. They have that example right there in front of them politically. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. The wedding was different back then. It wasn't the bride coming down the aisle. It was the groom going to prepare the home, the bridal suite, to prepare a place for her, so to speak. And then once he came, then they would come out to meet him as he was coming to greet his bride, her family, and all of them. And it was festive, and it was at night, and they needed lamps, and they needed lamps to be lit. But the bridegroom was delayed. If he had not been delayed, then everything would have been fine. But the bridegroom was delayed, and they weren't ready. And all of them became drowsy and slept. And at midnight there was a shout, look, here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "No, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go get the dealers and get some for yourselves." That could not have been easy at midnight to get a dealer out of bed to sell them the oil. And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he replied, "Truly, I tell you, I do not know you. I do not know you." These are the people who put it off. I'll accept Jesus one day. I will follow God one day. I will do the righteous thing one day. I had a friend, from the time I was little to the time we were adults, he said, "I'm so horrible, I can't accept Jesus now. I must wait till I clean up my life, and then I will accept him." I said, "Scott, he cleans it up. No, I'm not worthy for him to do that." It sounded great, but those were excuses. I hate to say it, but Scott, whether he even realized it, was making excuses as to why wait. You can't wait. You must be ready. We must all be ready at all times. Keep awake then, for you know neither the day nor the hour. We don't need to put on ascension robes, stand on a rooftop. We don't need to just stare at the sky. So there was a famous image of a man standing in a wheat field with the wheat fully ripe, just waiting to be harvested. But he set up a telescope in the field, and he's just checking the horizon. I don't know whether he's trying to see if the wheat is better over there, but the one thing he is not doing is harvesting. The fields were ripe unto harvest. And he's going to let it go because he's so busy looking for something. Christians know they already have something. Those who have trusted Jesus with all their heart know they already have something. There's nothing to look for. We just need to work till Jesus comes. And if that work involves help.